A woman's redemption, escaping Jezebel's influence. Annie sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling as she stared at the mirror across the room. The reflection staring back at her was familiar, yet foreign. She had always prided herself on being strong, independent, and in control. But now, she saw the truth: she wasn't in control. A spirit had been ruling her life, twisting her thoughts, her actions, and her relationships. It was the Jezebel spirit, and it had been with her for as long as she could remember. The wake-up call. Annie's journey to redemption began with a single moment of clarity. She had been arguing with her partner, Alex, yet again. But this time, something felt different. As she hurled accusations and manipulated the conversation to suit her narrative, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her wasn't the strong, confident person she thought she was. She was someone else, someone cold, calculating, and cruel. It was as if the veil had been lifted, and Annie finally saw the truth. She had been controlled by the Jezebel spirit, a manipulative force that thrived on chaos and control. The spirit's grip. Annie began to reflect on her life, and the pieces started to fall into place. She had always been charming and magnetic, able to bend people to her will with ease. But her charm was a weapon, her magnetism a trap. She had used sex, guilt, and manipulation to control those around her, her partners, her friends, even her family. She had isolated Alex from his loved ones, gaslighted him into doubting his own reality, and drained him of his energy. But the spirit didn't just affect her relationships, it affected her soul. Annie felt hollow, empty, and disconnected from her true self. She had become a puppet, controlled by a force she didn't fully understand. Seeking deliverance, Annie knew she had to break free before it was too late. She reached out to a spiritual counselor, who confirmed her fears she was under the influence of the Jezebel spirit. The counselor explained that the spirit thrived on manipulation, control, and chaos. It fed off the pain and suffering of its victims, leaving them hollow and broken. But there was hope. With prayer, fasting, and renunciation, Annie could break free from its grip. The battle for freedom. The journey to deliverance wasn't easy. The Jezebel spirit fought back, using every trick in its arsenal to keep Annie trapped. It whispered lies in her ear, telling her she wasn't worthy of redemption. It used guilt and shame to make her doubt herself. But Annie was determined. She prayed for strength, surrounded herself with supportive loved ones, and renounced the spirit's hold over her life. Slowly but surely, she began to feel the chains loosening. The aftermath. Now, sitting on the edge of her bed, Annie felt a mix of emotions: relief, guilt, and hope. She had broken free from the Jezebel spirit, but the scars remained. She had hurt people, especially Alex, and she knew she had a long road to redemption. But for the first time in years, Annie felt like herself again. She was no longer a puppet, no longer controlled by a dark force. She was free.